One person who has been out there publicly defending Biden told me just a short while ago, Biden is going to see the whole house of cards come down soon.
I had just shot an entire video on this topic when, of course, this story, as soon as I stopped recording, this story came out. From Axios, President Biden may decide to drop out of the presidential race as soon as this weekend, according to several top Democrats who believe the rising pressure will persuade the 81-year-old. So to be clear, they still don't know 100% for sure, but it sure as hell sounds like they are convinced that he is going to decide to drop out because of everything that has gone on, especially over the past couple of days. So as Axios breaks down here, a panic pressure campaign is pounding Biden and has been relentless and coordinated. So Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer told Biden on Saturday that it would be best if he dropped out. As ABC reported, Dems on Capitol Hill want him out and worry they'll lose winnable seats if not. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, a mastermind of the campaign to get Biden out, told him that he could destroy Democrats' chances of taking back the House. We're told she's also worried about donations drying up. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries delivered a similar, if more subtle, message to Biden. I just think Hakeem Jeffries holds less weight, so any message he gives, it benefits him to be more subtle in this case. Obama has spoken loudly with his silence, which is, I feel like that's been Obama since he's left office. It's just speaking loudly by not saying anything ever. But still, while Biden's being trashed, he's not coming to Biden's defense, and has also apparently privately discussed that he's worried about Biden's chances. Bill and Hillary Clinton are doing what Obama's doing, so are their former aides. And we increasingly hear top Biden aides, including ones who urged him to fight on after his disastrous debate on June 27th, are saying it's now when, if not if, Biden announced he's running. So people that once defended him after the debate are now saying, no, he's likely going to withdraw. So let me first share this meme because I laughed. This is incredibly accurate. Joshua Hill here. Pelosi, the left, Pod Bros, COVID-19, Obama, Biden effing step down. And you could add donors here somewhere as well. I have never seen all of these I've covered this stuff closely for 10 years. I have never seen all of these forces combine in a way that they are combining right now to try and save democracy and trying to ensure Trump does not win a second term. Everybody is concerned about this, and it is because Biden is at the top of the ticket. So, as I said, tested positive for COVID-19. What timing? Like, this is a guy who said, I'll only drop out if the Lord Almighty tells me. How much clearer of a sign do you need? He's not going to talk to you, but he's giving you COVID-19. So is that enough for you? And then this, I gotta give the campaign credit. This was brilliant. So assuming this was on purpose, but the tweet out here, I'm sick. And then they waited 2 minutes to post the rest of this. 2 minutes, this sat out there, I'm sick. 2 minutes later, of Elon Musk and his rich buddies trying to buy this election. And if you agree, pitch in here. You know what? Credit to them for meeting the moment here, though you can only play on the joke of Joe Biden being old and sick for so long before it, hurts you. But it's still got to give credit where it's due. These are some examples, though, of this was at the NAACP speech a couple days ago where he just continually loses track of what he's saying.
I know you're saying, Joe, you may not have a Congress. Well, guess what? You all told me I couldn't pass the Inflation Reduction Act. You all told me I couldn't face it. Anyway, we did it. We're going to bring rents down, as I said. We're going to build 2 million affordable homes. And cap rent increases of 5% a year so corporate landlords can't. God. Anyway, I don't want to get going. I'm going to get very upset.
I think he wanted to say gouge and then didn't get the word out and then maybe lost track of where he was in the speech. But, Biden does this thing, and you've likely seen this before, where he's in the middle of saying something and then says, anyway, this is something that he's only increased in doing. Like, it's not like, everybody has their thing where, I say, people say like, but it's something that Joe Biden has not had to rely on before, where you go back and watch his speeches from, while he was VP, or the VP debate is a great example. Watch the VP debate against Paul Ryan, and then go watch this now. Like, it is night and day. Even from 4 years ago, there's a massive difference. He has just continually declined, and it was very clear, of course, in the debate, and it has not gotten better since.
But there's gouging America. And by the way, not only saves lives, it will save taxpayers, just what I did on the first round on dealing with Medicare. It saves the taxpayer $160 billion because they don't have to pay these exorbitant prices to these anyway.
It's sad to watch because he used to be, not that I was ever a big Joe Biden fan because he was always incredibly conservative, but just in terms of an orator, he was always more of someone that you could, you felt like at least the way he communicated, he was more relatable. This is why he was often thought of as working class Joe. Even, let's be clear, he worked on behalf of credit card companies, but he always gave this aura that he was sort of your everyday man. It's a quality that a lot of politicians don't have, and I think it benefited him in 2020. But he just doesn't have it anymore. And like, this was a massive mistake. This is they recently announced, this is a great policy, capping rent increases to 5%. He announced it as $55.
The idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something. Under what I'm about to announce, they can't raise it more than $55.
And it looks like he knows he got it wrong, but he just, I guess, couldn't read that part of the teleprompter or lost where he was. Regardless, this is a new policy. They've been talking about this. You don't remember this major piece that you are campaigning on? This is just sad to watch. Clearly, he's having trouble. You can see him in the window here.
Gave them a thumbs up. He is now
He's having trouble getting into the car.
At his beach house. And we did note he wasn't wearing a mask there when he came down the stairs. But it does appear once he gets in the car that he puts that mask on. David.
Puts the mask on. It appears that he might be getting a little help just getting into the car there. Hard to make out through the rain what exactly is going on there. But it does look like certainly that the president's feeling the effects of early in the stages of COVID, and many of us have been there. So we do wish him a speedy recovery. John Carl, you're reporting earlier on World News Tonight, getting some pickup tonight across.
He just does not. He does not look it. And I got some clips coming up, by the way, of both Jonathan Carl, who's mentioned there, and Morning Joe. But this also came out. Senate Democrats share polling show Biden dragging down candidates to the point where they even have estimated gains in margin for Senate candidates with Harris and Whitmer. So if Harris or Whitmer, so Harris is blue, Whitmer is green, either of them at the top of the ticket help other states, help other candidates gain in every state. Whereas Joe Biden, every single one of these, it's below water. So just, the data has been very clear, and it's been clear for a while, but because it has not changed and only gotten largely worse for Joe Biden, it's been piling up. Now, this is also a major shift. Biden says he'd reevaluate campaign if medical condition emerged. This was him 2 weeks ago. Only the Lord Almighty could convince me to quit. Now it's, all right, well, actually after that, it was, well, if people in my circle tell me I cannot win, then I will consider dropping out. Now it's if I have a medical condition. And, COVID isn't a condition, but it can definitely help to bring some issues to the surface that he may already have and heighten them further. So again, this is the perfect moment for him to make this decision because he just got COVID, because he's likely dealing with something at his age, and from what we have seen, this would be the perfect time to say, I cannot continue another 4 years. I do think it wouldn't make sense to bow out of the presidency at this point, because then you put Kamala Harris in a position where she's both the president and likely campaigning, would be campaigning in that case. So it makes a lot more sense for him. It's November. He can finish out the term. It's almost over, and then pass it on to the next individual. So as I shared earlier, that was a breaking news story from Axios that I shared earlier. So I had a lot of stuff prepped, but Nancy Pelosi came out telling Biden to, the facts are, same with Chuck Schumer. And then this from Jonathan Karl here.
And I am told that the pressure from Democratic leaders for Biden to get out of the race is intensifying. In fact, one person who has been out there publicly defending Biden told me just a short while ago, Biden is going to see the whole house of cards come down soon. As for that meeting in Rehoboth, Delaware, I am told that this was a one-on-one meeting, just the Senate leader and the president, and that Chuck Schumer forcefully made the case that it would be better for Biden, better for the Democratic Party, and better for the country if he were to bow out of the race. And David, when I went to Schumer's office to ask them to tell them I was going to report this and tell you this tonight, absolutely no denial from Senator Schumer's office. They only said this: Leader Schumer conveyed the views of his caucus. In other words, the views of Democratic senators. I am also told that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, has expressed similar views directly to the president.
So if Chuck Schumer thought this was going to be a problem for this to come out, the office would have denied it, or they would have, pushed back in some way. They didn't. And in fact, they only bolstered their point by saying this isn't just Chuck Schumer's view, but this is the caucus. It's everybody's view. So again, all of this is compounding to a likely decision of him dropping out. This also came out this morning before I went to shoot. So Joe Biden is working toward a decision on whether to stay in the race that is good for the country. And that's from John Hickenlooper. So I'm not sure if this is just a similar statement to what Pelosi has said before, where, he's making a decision, or if John Hickenlooper knows more and that he is, thinking hard now since the COVID-19 diagnosis, that he is going to, think harder about this decision. But regardless, all the dominoes are falling. You have Joe Biden's favorite morning show, Morning Joe. The whole morning was dedicated essentially to trying to persuade Joe Biden to drop out. Here is a quote from Scarborough saying that yesterday was a day that may lead to that March 1968 moment where LBJ announced that he wasn't going to seek the Democratic nomination. This speaks to Joe Biden's ego and this desire to be, remembered for this brave decision to do what's best for the country, trying to compare him here to LBJ. All of this is very intentional. Again, it's come out many times, or at least in one big story. I think it was in the Washington Post or New York Times. It was one of them, that Joe Biden watches Morning Joe every morning, much like Trump watched Fox and Friends every morning. This is Joe Biden, especially now that he's sick at home. He's watching this. So it was this. Here's Mika Brzezinski discussing how brilliant Nancy Pelosi is, and you should really listen to Nancy Pelosi. It is so clearly trying to tell Joe Biden, please listen to Nancy Pelosi.
It may or may not be Joe Biden. I trust Joe Biden's abilities. I also trust Nancy Pelosi's political acumen. Nobody knows politics more than her, and nobody more than Nancy Pelosi. She does not get out there without information to back it up. She doesn't take risks, and she knows her politics. She knows her numbers.
She doesn't lose votes. You remember, whenever Nancy Pelosi, people say, well, is this going to pass or not? We would always say, when Nancy was Speaker, we'd say, well, if she puts it on the floor, it's going to pass, because she knows where the votes are better than anybody I've ever seen.
If there is a change, it's got to be a change that gets Barack Obama behind the candidate, Michelle Obama behind the candidate, George W. Bush behind the candidate, former presidents and world leaders and people who understand the importance of democracy, because it's going to take citizens who care about this country to bring this back together, or Trump will win. Trump right now is on the path to winning.
I'm telling you, I have never felt more confident that he is actually going to drop out. There's I'll play a bit of this. I don't need to play the whole clip, but John Heilman discussing, this is the other major piece here that should be part of this meme. The donors. The donors are telling Joe Biden, the big donors, please, the money has dried up. You must leave the race or Democrats are screwed.
Jeffrey Katzenberg has devoted a lot of his professional life to trying to get Joe Biden into the White House, to getting Joe Biden in 2020. He raised more money for Joe Biden, all told, back in 2020 than any other person. He's raised more money for Joe Biden collectively, pulling all these people together, the big Hollywood fundraisers, and he's a campaign co-chairman, Jeffrey Katzenberg, okay? He went to Biden yesterday and said, the big dollar donors are done, effectively. I'm paraphrasing, but we can still raise money at the grassroots. But that means about half of the money that we were expecting for the fall, we are not going to have. And now Joe Biden, with COVID, God bless him, and hoping for a speedy recovery, gets to go back to Delaware and think it over. And it's going to be a very sober time for him, because the message, the writing is on the wall. Whether he decides to read it or not, ultimately, as we've said before, is up to him. But the message is very clearly on the wall for him now from the party.
I would expect a decision by Monday. I think by Monday, we are going to know if Joe Biden is going to stay in the race or not. Or I should say, I think we'll know by Monday if he's going to drop out. If he's staying in the race, these discussions are just going to continue. These discussions are not going away. He may come out and say, I'm staying in the race, and people are still going to have these discussions, which is why it is so important for him to leave. The focus should not be on Joe Biden and his health. It should be on Donald Trump and the disaster that Donald Trump is. And to be fair, the accomplishments that have happened under Joe Biden, especially as it applies to labor, there can be a shift here in the campaign. There could be a massive shift in the polling, but it requires Joe Biden not being on the top of the ticket.